Thank you very much, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, I just do need to rise and respond to the Minister and the Chair in relation to the student levies that are being covered by this Education Amendment Bill, which I would note, just for the record in case the Minister missed it, we are supporting. So Labor does support this bill, and we do support greater transparency and control of the levies that are being set, that students are being required to pay. So we do support greater transparency and accountability in the setting of student levies. So I think it would be important just to look at how that may work and the apparent inconsistency, however, with legislation that the government is putting in. Because while, and I congratulate the Minister, just so the Minister hears that directly, I congratulate the Minister for having putting into this provision greater involvement by students in the setting of student levies, which is covered by Part 1 of this bill. But sadly, the gains that are possible there will be undermined by the loss of student associations as a result of the voluntary student membership bill, which will cripple student associations and their ability to represent students and lobby institutions over fee increases. And the reality is, if one just looks at the practical circumstances here, how will institutions consult students and include them in decision-making processes on levies if there is no organisation to represent them? Will they just pick a random student that happens to be walking around and say, "You, come here, we want to talk to you about student levies"? Or perhaps they'll go to the Young Nats Club on the campus and say, "Listen, we need to talk to some students about levies, so you'll do the job." Where will the independent voice and organised voice and democratic voice for students be to be consulted? So I would like the Minister to answer that question, because I have congratulated the Minister for ensuring that this provision does provide for student consultation, but how on earth will they do it? And certainly the other inconsistency here, of course, will be the demise of student associations will mean that institutions will be expected to provide more services. So how will they do that? That will put an inconsistency here as well, because they will want to ensure that some of those services, which are actually very important to the student experience, to their well-being and their involvement in university, if they are lost through the demise of student associations, will the institutions be picking them up? That will be an extra cost, and so therefore we have a bit of a circular problem here. So the answer, of course, to that question, who will pay or how will that happen, is that there will be no money to provide for that student support services that will be lost, and that will diminish the tertiary experience and threaten achievement at university. Now, I just would note that the reasons for bringing in this particular part are good ones. There have been increases in a way that there shouldn't have been, that are putting pressure on student incomes, and certainly we do not support that. So we do support the greater accountability and transparency. And I noticed that the New Zealand University Students Association, just before I go on to that, just the bit that the Minister has said here, actually the Minister has himself said that under the proposed changes, arrangements for decisions to be made jointly or in consultation with students on matters associated with student services. So that's the specific point. I'd like the Minister to tell us how that will happen when student associations go down the gurgler. Now, NZUSA, the Student Association, have welcomed these proposals, so that's positive. We're all in agreement here, and they do agree, in fact, and not surprisingly, that students should have oversight over these levies, that is the best way to ensure the services are responsive to students and that levies are kept under control. So this is all good, tick, tick, tick here. Students already have a say at some institutions, and good on those institutions, I say. People who do better than what is legally a minimum. So they cite the example of Victoria University, where the Students' Association works in partnership with the university to ensure the levy is controlled and spent on services students use and value. Well, that's good, and I congratulate Victoria University for that. But But they then point out, and this is a quote, "While we welcome today's proposals, the unfortunate irony is that the government is in the process of severely undermining any independent student voice at institutions."
Louise Upson.
Mr Chair, it's a pleasure